Matt,
What's going on, big lad?
I'm good, my mate. Good, good, good. How are you?
I'm all right, man. I'm all right. I'm all right. Just settling into a comfortable space.
Yes, mate. I understand that. I understand that. Hopefully, I won't have any Wi-Fi issues today.
You know what? I forgot about the Wi-Fi now. I thought it was how I should have just come off. Should have come off the Wi-Fi and do it on my data. But I've left it there now, so we'll just see how it goes. But
Yeah,
no one's on the Wi-Fi in my house anyway,
that's
so it
good.
should be fine.
Good. That's good. Lincoln, lovely. Natalie, nice to see ya. Steve, big up. Rob, brother Owen, Liz. Let's give it a bit of time for everybody to kind of step in.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Hey, Lincoln, I ain't seen you for a while. How you doing, mate? You okay? Ash, good to see you as well. Glad you can join us. Liz, always. Tisha, good to see you here as well. Why? Do you know what? I've been waiting for this all day, so I just kind of sorted myself out to get it all done. Make sure I've got nothing to do um, in and around it. But now I think I've tired myself out a little bit.
You're not the only one, my mate. I feel a bit weary today, honestly.
Yeah, and I think I've tired myself out just a little bit. But we're gonna push and go, man.
Absolutely, because once we start flowing, everything's gonna be fine.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Good to see my bros joining in and they're on time as well. Big Bones, Name, good to see you both on time. Boy, how's the tripod? Did it work?
I've got the light on. The light's there.
Yeah.
I wanted it to fit my tablet, but it looks like I've got to buy another bit. Because yeah, so I've got it will work on the phone, but I don't want to use my phone. I'd rather use the iPad.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
To be fair, the iPad's probably better anyway.
Yes, yes,
Which
yes.
I wanted to do it on the MacBook, but it doesn't give me the option.
Yeah, I've been looking into some options today, actually. So but maybe next week we should be in a position to stream to YouTube Live and Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So we see how it works out.
So yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's not, Joker. We'll get started soon. We'll get started real soon. You know what? We'll get into the juicy bits as time goes on, but we just start with the intro and
Yeah,
push and go.
let's do it. Let's do it. So where are we at? So Matthew Popo from We Think. Who are ya? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, doke. So about me, as me as a person, professionally, I've been working with young people now for just over 10 years. So I started off working in student support. So I was working with children with disabilities and young people with disabilities, and I moved from there and I started working with children in social care. But because of where I was doing my degree at the time, which was to do criminology, I started working in a unit with young people with criminal backgrounds or going through the criminal justice system, and working with them that way. So I did that for a couple of years. I loved that job, actually. Loved that job. But the issue that I had with it was, as you know, sometimes it's shift work. So I'm
Yes.
working around the clock. I'm working days, afternoons, nights. Just a bit of a problem with family. And then around my work, I was running the football team at the same time. So I just got them then. They were 11 when I got them. So then I moved from there, went over to education, started running inclusion, just being support staff. And I've gone from running the inclusion unit to rising up now to being a head of year at one of the local inner city schools in Birmingham. And on top, and all the way through that, I was doing all my community work. So that was all work I was doing for free, no money involved, just all my time. And I was running a football team. So I had them when they were 11. And then I kept them all the way to 17, just before their 18th birthday. And it was a blessing. It's probably the best bit of youth work I've ever done. I learned so much from them, to be fair. And if I'm honest, I probably learned more from them being a youth worker than they probably learned from me. And they probably wouldn't believe that, but I did. And then over the past few years, if I'm honest, I've been seeing a lot of youth work, and I've been seeing a lot of organisations do some really good stuff and some not so good stuff for our young people. And I've just been wanting to do some work for a long time, just independently. But the joke for me is I'm a bit of a procrastinator, and I've got a big issue with fear. And not like I'm scared of things; it's more of a worry. Like I'm going to do things and people won't respond to it. I'm going to put work into the world and nobody will care for it. And they won't have the impact that I'm looking for. So I just didn't do it for a long time. But recently I've decided, after having a pretty rough year, and we'll get into that later on in the conversation, that it's time. So with the help of the wife, who's the backbone, the cornerstone, the one that pushes me to do most things, even when I don't want to do it, we started We Think. And it is my work, it is my initiative in a sense of what I'm going to put into the institution, but it wouldn't be here if it wasn't for someone like her and other people around, people that even a conversation we had, just a month ago, it pushed me to say, you know what, enough's enough, we're going to get the work done. So We Think is basically a think tank. And what it suggests is that it's been too long. We've been doing youth work in our communities, in and around the country. I talked to a lot of youth workers all over the country, and it's disjointed. It's disjointed bad, because at the end of the day, people aren't working together because, one, they don't know that people exist, and two, because they don't rate them. So they just say, you know what, I'm not gonna work with this person or that person. But there's different ways you can work with people without actually working with people, if that makes sense. Yeah. So when you look at We Think, we think is a sharing of ideas. We think is a sharing of opportunities where people can come through what I'm putting together to say that, you know what, we can all learn from each other. So there's going to be, training sessions, there's a blog, there's consultancy, there's the workshops, there's the publications. But the big thing is I want other people all over the country to realise that we're not all doing this as individuals. We are all doing this together. And I want to use that platform to either connect companies or institutions or charitable groups together. Or I want to use, or not even, and I want to do my own work, show the world what I'm doing. And then if people can learn from me, people can be a part of what I'm doing, then please come and join me. Because at the end of the day, the work is not going to get done because one person had a great idea. So we all have to do it together. So We Think the village approach is all about, it's not what Matthew thinks. It's not what Matthew's wife thinks. It's not about what Matthew's friends think. It's about what everybody thinks. And can we combine those ideas? Can we combine those thoughts to put positive work in action? Because there's just too much talking, and there's just too much people talking, too much cooks in the kitchen, but not enough people cooking. You know what I'm saying? It's just ridiculous. So what I want to do now is get people saying to each other, you know what, I went on the We Think website the other day, I went here, I went there, so on and so forth, and I realised there's a company in Manchester, there's a company in Derby, there's a company in Luton that are doing all these great things. And through me sharing best practice with everyone, through the work that I'm doing, people then get interconnected, and they're saying, you know what, that's cool, I want to go and talk to that person or this person, I want to talk to Matthew a bit more about such and such. But like I said, it's not about me, it's about all of us. And I'm not saying we have to all be friends and the best of friends or whatever. I'm just saying let's make the work, and that's what We Think's all about.
Excellent. That's powerful, because the fact that you've said about the collaborative, and it's not just about what you think, it's about what we all think.
Yeah,
it's bang on, because we all have stuff to contribute, which is I think one of the reasons why I'm using this platform, because I want to bring in more people like yourself to share. Because I remember I sent you a message earlier on.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, and the message was, it just come off the top of my head. I says, your face needs to be seen. Yeah, your words need to be read. Yeah, and your voice needs to be heard. Really is as simple as that. And I think that's the case for many of us out here. So do you know what?
Do you know what it
Absolutely.
is? I think for me, I think youth work and work like it, when you work people focused, I think we've got to a place now in the world where everybody wants to show everyone what they're doing, but it ain't about the work, it's about them. And so one thing I've learned with the work and working with young people is that at the end of the day, young people don't really trust adults the way they're supposed to or the way that we need them to. One of the reasons why I don't trust them is because young people can see exploitative behavior. Young people can see when you're disingenuine. Young people can see when you're around for all the wrong reasons. So I never wanted to put my young people that I work with in Front Street because I didn't want that to affect my relationships with the young people in my community. And you know some of the young people and the kinds of young people I work with. Now, if I start putting them on Front Street, you think they're going to come and talk to me and have conversations with me and trust me with their life and their stories and what's going on in and around their environment? It's not the way it works. So for a long time, I wanted to just be left alone to do my work with the young people because I need to build that platform of trust. Now that I've done that over the past 10 years and we've built that platform of trust to do certain things, they know my intention is pure. They know my intention is clean. So even if I talk to certain people now, they don't think, oh, Matthew's trying to sell us out to kind of line his pockets or to line his social status. I think, you know, he's trying to help, man, and they know realistically what is good for them and what isn't. So I say I've hid, but it's more about keeping my relationships going with the young people that I work with. Because if you don't have those relationships, you can't get the work done. But now I've been around long enough and I get it. I'm talking about children from all over the city. Once again, Darren, you already know, and people around me know how many young people I work with in the city that I'll never talk about, never ever talk about, families I've worked with that I'll never talk about. And it's all about building that platform and that foundation before we start talking to everyone saying, look what I do, look what I do, look what I do. Because it doesn't help. It doesn't help build those relationships.
Totally agree. Totally agree. So today, you know what, we've been bouncing phone calls along
Yeah.
for the last few weeks now, and we kind of hit on the topic really around, you know, what during lockdown, what have we learned about ourselves and our children?
Yeah.
So, you know, that's pretty much the theme. And I just want to go a little bit more further into that, really.
Okay. So when we had this conversation, and you said to me, "Oh, what should we talk about?" If you remember, I kind of gave it to you straight away. I said, "This is what I want to talk about, and this is why." So, like I said before, my day job, my profession, I'm a head of year at secondary school, pastoral leader, deputy DSL in school. So I deal with a lot of the cases that most people don't even know exist with some of the children in my school. And one thing that struck me over this past year, especially of working, is how much a lot of parents and people around these children don't know these children. And when I'm talking to parents, when I'm talking to Tanaya, nice to see you, young man. When I'm talking to a lot of these children, I'm realizing how much they have realized their parents don't have a clue about them, and don't know what's going on. Because when I'm talking to them and saying to them, listen, what's going on, man? How come you've just done this or how come you've just done that? They're saying, oh, sir, you know, things happen, blah, blah, blah. And they'll give me the details. And I'm saying, well, when I call your mum, what's she going to say? When I call your dad, what's he going to say? Won't say nothing, sir. What do you mean I say nothing? I'm telling you, they might come to school and they might like shout at me and do whatever else. I'm going to go home and everything will be fine. I might get my PlayStation taken off me for a couple of days or whatever else, but for the most part, nothing's going to happen. And I realized I deeped it this year more than ever that most parents, and I'm not put it out there, I'm not judging, but a lot of parents don't know their children. And a lot of children have clocked that their parents don't have a clue what they're about and what they're doing. So they play with it and they run with it because they know if I do this, not much is going to come of it when I get home. I'm in full control. You know, I've worked with children this year who have outright told their parents a number of occasions, I ain't going to school. You can't make me go to school. You know, their parents phoning me saying, can you come to my house and get my children out of bed? Can you come to my house and put my children in your car and take them to school? I'm saying, no, that's not my job. When they're here, I will do everything for those children, but it's not my job to come to your house, walk up your stairs and get your children out of bed. It's not what I'm supposed to be there to do. I don't even have the legal liability to do it and get away with it. So why am I doing it? But I realised how many parents don't know their children and how many children have realised that their parents don't have a clue about who they are. And I don't even also mean about the children who are doing badness. There are some children who are lovely, absolutely lovely children, but they have clocked that their parents don't watch them, that their parents don't have a clue who they are, what their interests, what they like from what they dislike. You know, who do they walk to school with? Who do they talk to when they're at school? Who do they spend time with when they're outside of school? Good kids, but their parents still don't really have a clue. Children who are doing extracurricular activities and their parents never turn up to watch. As a football coach, for example, I am telling you now that I ran a team for pushing 8-9 years, and I can count on two hands the amount of parents who came to support them children. Because they don't know that. Yeah, because they don't know their children.
Yeah.
They don't know their children. So for me, it's about a place of I want to address this, and Craig asked a couple of questions about how we get parents to understand and what it looks like practically, and I will get down to that because I think later on in the conversation I'm definitely going to get to it. But I think personally that it's about while we're educating the children, we have to educate the adults. We have to look at what the adults are doing, or more importantly, what adults aren't doing for these children. Because the reality is that actually our flaws as parents or as guardians or as, you know, whoever we are to these children isn't what necessarily always what we teach them, but what we're not teaching them. So when I look at what have we learned about ourselves and children in holidays, I'm looking at, have you learned anything new about your children since you've been with them every single day? Have you picked up anything from your children that maybe you didn't know about before the break? Because if I say the break, the lockdown, because if you haven't learned one new thing, just one new thing about your child while they've been at home every day for the past 6-7 weeks, I'm going to question that. So I'm not going to judge you, because who am I to judge anybody? But I'm going to question that, and I want to know why we're not learning nothing new. Because a big part of the disconnect is a lack of communication. You know, a lack of phone calls, a lack of people say, a lack of. I had a conversation with someone before we broke up from school for the lockdown, where the parent said to me that she can only work out what's going on with her child if she gets her child to talk to me. Now what happens? So now what happens when we're not at school? What happens with all these children when they don't have the buffer of education and extracurricular programs and external provisions? What happens? What happens then? What are we learning about our children to take back into the world and say to them, "Oh, do you know what? This is what I've implemented into your life." And this is where I find I'm worrying more and more about children, not because of the poor behavior of them, but the lack of whatever it is coming from their guardians, coming from their parents, coming from whoever it is that has an influence in their life. So once again, the question poses, what are you learning about your children? And do you know how to learn? Do you know how to fill those gaps in the disconnect? Because once again, I've had conversations with so many different people who are saying to me, teach me how to talk to my children. What are the basics? Do you know what I mean? What are the basics of talking to my children? My daughter comes through the door, and every single day she comes through the door, when I walk through the door, my first question to her is, hello, babe, how was your day? Do you know how many parents don't even ask that one said question? How was your day? Do you know what I mean? Ask her how her day was. And I pick up little things, so I listen beyond what she says. So she can say to me, oh, yeah, Dad, my day was okay. But I know my daughter, so she had a great day. She would tell me exactly why her day was great. But if her day's okay, something was wrong. Something's gone wrong. She's had a very uninspired day. So we have to ask those questions. And I don't think we're asking enough questions. And I also think we're not listening to the answers we're getting when we do ask those questions. In regards to, once again, how we are understanding our children and what we're learning about our children. Because in this world, I'm telling you, the children pay attention probably sometimes more than the adults do to general life. And they could teach us a few things, but we're too busy ignoring their existence or not paying them the adequate attention, asking the appropriate questions. So when I ask parents or when I ask people during this lockdown, what have we learned from our children? I'm asking a few things, and the main thing is, have you seen the importance of provision put in place for your children every single day, whether it be education, like I said, you just going to school, external provision in regards to, like, say, PRUs or workshops or schemes, college, whatever it is they do. Have you now began to see the importance of the provisions put in place for your children? Because now that they're not there and you have to fill their time, can you do it? Do you know how to do it? Do you know how to have your children around you every single day, all day, good mood or bad mood? Do you know how to deal with these children? And I'm telling you, a lot of people are struggling. By the way, hats off to all those parents who are at home right now, homeschooling their children every single day, teaching lesson after lesson after lesson, and banging out all that work, because that is amazing. So hats off to all of you guys, all of you.
Absolutely. And you know, in terms of that disconnect, yes, we could all relate. Many of us parents can relate to when our children in primary school, you ask them, who tell you to ask them who our school was. They would chat your ears off. Yeah, they would tell everything. But then obviously, as it progresses to that year 7, that's when things, you know, how was school? Okay. You know what I mean? The one word answers. How do you that? How do we have to open? It looks like when I tend to find myself asking more open questions and more probing questions, and even breaking it down as what lessons did you do today? Even though I know, what lessons did you do? What did you learn? Do you know what I mean? I'm breaking it down hour by hour almost. Do you know what I mean? And
do you know what?
Up.
Sorry, carry on.
No, go ahead.
Conversation with children at times is too formal. It's too scripted. It's too. I'm gonna ask a question because I feel like this is the question I'm supposed to ask, if that makes sense.
Go for it.
When I talk to a lot of children who come across my path in regards to when they've been, you know, good times or bad or whatever it is, one question I always get from a lot of children is, how comes you talk like that? How comes when I do certain things, you don't respond a certain way? So, for example, when I'm in trouble, how come you don't shout, sir? How come you don't tell us off and do this and do that and blah, blah, blah? And I say, well, you've already done the badness and you know I'm going to punish you for it. So what am I shouting for? And it kind of throws them off because they expect adults to behave a certain way. Children have an expectation of adults to just be a certain way all the time. And when you act outside of the ordinary, they're shocked.
Yes.
So when a child walks through the front door, you don't necessarily have to stop, you know, and be like, oh, how was your day? So you can carry on doing what you're doing and talk to them and make them know you're paying attention. And they'll talk because they feel less pressure. Yeah. You know how much pressure a child feels when you stand in front of them and you look down at them and you say, how was your day? They feel like they have to answer your question a certain way because you're looking dead in their face thinking, oh, I better answer this question correct, because if it's wrong, what's going to be the next question? So it's like there's different ways to communicate with children. Why do we have to sit down with children and have these formal, long-out conversations? Why can't we just say to our children, oh, do you know what? Oh, babe, you know, can you go and do this for me over there, please? Or, son, can you go and, you know, take that from there. Just move it from there for me real quick. And yeah, sometimes you might get a bit of a face or, a grunt, whatever else. You might have to just shut it down a little bit. But for the most part, be natural and be genuine with your children, because the more that they realize that they are being spoken to and not spoken at, the more that they'll talk, and the more they'll be a part of the process of you being a parent and them being a child. So for me, a lot of the reason why parents are struggling with their children is because it sounds dumb to say, but you're just treating the children like little people that live under your thumb. That must do what they do what they're told. And we have to shape a narrative where the children feel comfortable enough to have those conversations. Like I said, just take your time with them. Be mindful of the way you speak to them. Be mindful of the tone of voice you use. Be mindful of how you look at them. They might say certain things that you don't really like and you want to respond a certain way, but be calculated and be objective in your approach in regards to the way that you interact with your children. Because I'm telling you, if you damage those lines of communication when they're young, you will struggle to get them back as they get older. I mean, and I do mean struggle, because they're going to learn new things. They're going to be around different people. They're going to observe different relationships with different people, and they're going to start to pick and choose what they like and what they don't like, and how they want to be spoken to and treated. So just be very mindful when you're around your children, how you address them and how you speak to them. Because at the end of the day, if you're not speaking to them correct and coming correct to them, please don't expect it from them. Especially as they get older, when going into their teenage years, from that primary school into year 7, year 8, year 9, and so on and so forth. And to just to finish this point, they say in attachment theory, if a child cannot make a genuine attachment, or if you can't add a certain quality into a child's life by the age of 12, 13, the likelihood that you'll be able to do it after that is very slim. So it isn't just looking at the teenagers, look at them from the early years as well, in regards to how you're speaking to your children and how we build lines of communication. Because I'll keep drawing back to the point of what we learned about our children in lockdown. But the reality is, I'm asking that question because I know a lot of parents aren't learning a lot, and they're struggling because they don't have those lines of positive communication.
Yeah, and just to kind of follow on from what you're saying, in terms of like ways that I know I've used with young people that I work with and my own children, is the good old classic in the car. You know, your eyes is not on them, so it's not it's not in interrogation. You're just driving along, and they're talking freely. When you're in the kitchen washing up and cooking, it's easy, it's natural, and you get what you want. I call it kettle talk around the kettle. Do you know what I mean? It's beautiful, and
completely agree.
Do you know what I mean? There's so much
completely
value.
Agree.
And also, I found that in terms of relationships and that, you've also got to and having conversations. You need to be available. You need to be there in the spaces. So think about your communal areas in the house. Yeah. Now, I can pretty much guarantee most of us have TVs in our room, in our bedrooms. Some of us probably have like a Fire Stick or whatever else, and we're streaming in our rooms. But do we need to do we need to look at shifting it to be making sure that we spend more time downstairs? Do you know what I mean? Because for me, that's key. And the kids need to come downstairs and they need to see us. Do you know what I mean? As part and be there and not detach. Because even sometimes that phone for our kids, that I describe the phone as almost like a force field. Yeah, that prevents you from getting in.
Yeah.
And also, if you feel that way, how does the children feel about us? Now, at a time of lockdown, when we're thinking about this whole working from home scenario, they're asking us to work from home. So we're sitting down with our laptops and we're up there, and again, there's that barrier right there stopping us from engaging with our children. So we got to look at some of the physical barriers and how we look at working our environment and how we can improve that most definitely. Do you know what I mean? I love catching. I know if there's any way I'm going to catch my kids, it's the fridge. You're going to catch them in the fridge. So catch them around that time. Catch them in the fridge, and then you can have that conversation. It's great. Do you know what I mean? So we got to know how we can work that in different settings, whether it's in the car, whether it's walking, whether it's within the house and that sort of stuff. And just to pick up on another point that you mentioned about around support for our children in terms of when they go into like extracurricular activities like football. Now, my son plays football, my boys play football, and do you know what? We can guarantee that the other side's team are going to have more parents there than we are. Do you know what I mean? There's going to be more of them, and there's probably a few of us that are there. And I understand we work and we do certain things. There's some of them that are just there. They're just at home. Me tired. Me just work. Whatever. Take that time, and there's nothing more sweeter than seeing your children enjoying and playing and spending that time. Do you know what I mean? And seeing them. The look on their eyes is kind of similar to when you go and see your children at what do you call it, assembly. What are your kids doing when you sit down? They're like this, looking for you. Do you know what I mean? It's important. Do you know what I mean?
I think. Do you know what's crazy for me? I think with relationships and with my children and doing certain things, that it all starts from the morning time. So a lot of the time in the morning, I see my daughter. My son's only 9.5 months. So he's different, but I see my daughter in the morning, and she'll pop her head. I'll go into her room, and I wake her up every morning. I annoy her sometimes, flick her light on, wake her up, morning, so on and so forth, and I just wake her up so she can see me first thing in the morning, because you do have a lot of working parents who work a long day, and your parents sometimes they just don't get to see their children the way they want to because of the working day. I'm in work most days between 7:30 to 7:45 every single day. So I will wake her up in the morning just to make sure that I see her and she sees me before we leave. And then when I come home, one of the first things I'll do is have a conversation with her. And that's probably sometimes even before I have one with my wife. Just say, let's have a conversation with her. Like, man, how was your day? What's going on? Talk to me about such and such, because I know that if I don't do that straight away, then one of the first things I'll do is I'll get into it and have a long conversation about my day with the wife. And then it's so easy to neglect talking to your children. Yeah. Because then talking to your children can sometimes come across like it's a chore, like it's a task, because, I'm tired now, I've been out all day and I've just been speaking to so-and-so, and we have to make sure that our children are a priority in regards to our communication, because if we're not talking to them in arguably the frivolous times when everything's fine, you think when they're struggling and they're upset and when things are going wrong, they're going to have conversations with us, the same people who on a regular basis kind of somewhat ignore them and don't have conversations with them. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So you have to have those small conversations to lead up to the big ones, because without them, you don't have a basis for a real relationship and some sort of a parent-child friendship, even, if you want to call it that. And once again, it all starts from the little things. When I'm in school, I might be head of one year group, so currently I'm head of year 8. But I will talk to near enough every year group in school, and sometimes some of the teachers or some of the other people, like even on my team, will say, "Oh, all the kids love you." They do. Whenever they see you in the corridor, there's Mr. Popo. Hi, Mr. Popo, and always talking. It's because I do little things on purpose to make them know that I'm there, to make them know that if they need me, it's okay. So when you walk down the corridor in the mornings, afternoon, whenever it is, hello kids, how you doing? What's going on? Laughing and joking. I'll go out on the playground, go play table tennis with them, talk to them, stand with them, just have general conversation with them, where you might see some people standing around in the playground or whatever doing their duty, and they just stand, they're just silent. They're just not saying nothing. It's like they can be statues and not say a word to the children, but then on another day, they want the children to interact with them and be cool with them. Communication with our children is all about consistency. So what you do on Monday, you must do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, to make them realize that it wasn't a one-off. It wasn't a one-off. Like sir or miss genuinely care, mum or dad genuinely care, auntie, uncle genuinely care, and you got to make it consistent. And back to the original question, we're not going to learn nothing new about our children. We're not going to know who we are about our children until we start having these conversations, until we start building these relationships, until we start creating environments where our children look at us as the person to go to, that person that I trust, that person that cares, that person that even if they're going to say something I don't want to hear, I'm willing to ask them the question and talk to them, because they're the people that have always been there for me. And I don't just mean, giving them their nice clothes and their pocket money and all. I mean, genuinely, there's nothing more important than giving your children your time and your ear, because that's how it goes. It's always how it goes in any relationship. People have said to me for years, I think I posted about it a couple of years ago on Facebook, children don't listen. They're too hard-headed. They don't do this, they don't do that. How can I get them to listen? I says, who are you to that child? What makes you believe because you're an adult just kind of sit down and listen? Who are you to that child? For a child to listen to you, first of all, once again, lay the foundation, have somewhat regular conversations about, it could be about any and anything. And then once you've had them conversations, start having more conversations and building on those ones. Remember the conversations you had, so in the future you can build from those old conversations where you learn about your children and have new ones. Because the older way a child is going to start sitting down and listening to us as adults is when they trust us. Because when they trust us, and I mean when they truly trust us, then we have their ear, and then we can learn about who they really are.
Absolutely. And you know, for me, what you were saying about the whole relationships, it's key because, and you know, there was a comment made by Naomi around
Yes, Joe.
look, children don't want you in their bedrooms, right? Maybe, but you know what? Sometimes it's these little things like, you know what they're like, so let's bring them a little something of what they're like. Yeah. So whether it's a thing of, you know what, I'm gonna cook them their favorite dinner today, you know, we're gonna work with that. Sometimes I've done little tricks like making hot chocolate with the cream and the marshmallows and all that something, and just brought it up to them. The look on their face is enough. Start the conversation off. But sometimes when we're talking about people who are having difficulty engaging with their children, it takes these little gestures, you know, that somebody says, these small deposits that we need to do to boost the relationship bank. Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
I mean, like I said, I've tried for years now, you know, different ways to get the work done, and the only way that I know that works is start from the ground up. I think sometimes as practitioners, whatever that may be, and practitioners is a bit of a broad term. You know, we're talking about anyone that's working with young people within youth work. If you're a youth work practitioner, you know, you're working with young people, and if you're a parent, you practice, you know, guidance and pastoral care and love and all of the rest. I think sometimes we try and cut corners. I think we try and cut corners by demanding certain responses and reactions from our children because we are who we are. And the reality is that if we remember what we were like when we were children, we wouldn't have had it. So why are we trying to, you know, throw that upon our children? And I think sometimes we cut corners, so we don't ask the foundation questions. We skip right to the, you know, to the pinnacle. We don't want to do the groundwork in regards to our relationships, but then you want to be close. You know, you don't have regular conversations about the small things, but then you want to have the deep ones. We try to cut corners. And when it comes to our children, we can't cut corners because it will show and prove. And when we want to get their ear the most, we won't. So I'll give you an example. 2011, we had the riots. And this was after probably, the second wave of cuts. The youth service had fallen to bits. There was nothing realistically for our young people. Then the young people rioted. And those same politicians who shut down everything then had the nerve to go on the TV and say, can all you parents, youth workers, whatever you are out there, can you go outside and bring your children indoors? Do you know how many of those children hadn't been engaged by any kind of service or even probably by some of their parents for months and months? And then you think we can just go outside and tell those children to go inside? In what world are you living in? Because you want to cut corners. You don't want to do the work that you're supposed to do. You want to cut corners. And we can't do this with our children. The work has to be done consistently, diligently, with integrity, and with them in the center of it all. And if it's not done that way, it's not going to work at all.
Simple. You know what? Getting lots of good reactions. I've made note of the questions that have popped up, so we can answer them shortly. Do you know what I mean? But in terms of ourselves, like, because if we talk about you know, the other part of this question, which was what have we learned about ourselves? Now, for many of us, sometimes we're not quite ready to have that conversation with our kids, and maybe because you're vexed, you're angry, you're stressed. You know what I mean? Sometimes you need to pick the moment to have that conversation, and not do it when you're feeling like that. All right, let me just do this, and I'll go and make that time and go and speak to my child. Do you know what I mean? About whatever or anything. Because sometimes, you know, coming with the negative and a screw face don't cut it. Screw face
don't work. I'm not scared of it.
Nah, it's dead. Do you know what I mean? It don't make no difference. So again, you are saying from even in the school, and the parents are feedbacking saying, ultimately that the way of your approach of being more relational and just talking and being approachable is what's been working.
I think, do you know what? In all honesty, like I said, the approachability from me comes from the work that I do as soon as it's allocated. So when I say that, my school is very different to a lot of schools in that when you're ahead of year at my school, what's normal for a lot of people is you get a year group in year 7, yeah? And you keep a year group from year 7 all the way to year 11. That's your year group for 5 years. And you grow with those children for 5 years. My school is different. Every single year, we get a new year group. So you could build some mad relationships with your children. And then every year, you have to hand those children over to another head of year, which is fine because if the head of your head of years are competent, so we do what we're doing. But every year before I get a new year group, when I find out what year group I'm going to have, I start scouting them out. I start looking at who's who, what's what, who behaves like this and who behaves like that, who needs what, and who, it's just paying attention to the small details. And what I'm seeing a lot of time now is a lot of parents can tell me, oh, you know what, my son or my daughter got a C or a D on their report, and I'm not happy about it. So you're paying attention to the bad grade, great. Were you paying attention when they were sitting down and they weren't doing no homework? Or when they were doing their homework and they were suffered and they didn't get the work? And they were struggling and they were saying, oh, I don't get this, I don't get that. And you were probably not really helping them or turning them away or, not really seeing if we could source any kind of extra outfit. So we're paying attention to some things, but we're not paying attention to root causes. And which is what I'm saying we have to look at. When it comes to children, we cannot cut corners. It's just so simple to say, oh, this happened, that happened, they're doing this, they're doing that. Or even with the good children, we're ignoring them because they're just doing good anyway. And then when something bad happens, you think, what's going on here? What happened? But there were signs that we weren't paying attention to because you didn't feel you needed to. So for me, like I said, you can't cut corners. You can't cut corners with your children. You have to keep being diligent with them and paying attention to certain things. And yes, the communication will work, and yes, the good relationships will work, so on and so forth. But you also have to be very strategic with the way you work and how you apply whatever information you may acquire. Just because I know something, that doesn't mean I can use it in my game plan to get where I need to go with these children. It's just a fact that I've learned. Some information you can't apply to life because it's not necessary. You can't pull out those strings to get what you want. It's just information that you're aware of, so you know how to approach those children, and potentially what will or won't work with those children. And there's things that, for me as a parent, I feel like we should know about our children. We should know things that we know can get our children on side, that will upset our children. We should know what will make our children happy, their interests, what they don't like for whatever reason, who their friends are, where they like to go, what music they like to listen to. It could be anything. Like, I can reel off about 50 facts about my daughter that are completely irrelevant, but I'm also open to it. There's things about her that I don't know. So every single day, I try and work out new information about her so I can build a profile about my child. Because if I don't know my child the way I need to, and then they leave my house, and then they go out into the world and do madness, and then that madness is presented back to me, I don't know about anybody else, but I think I kind of feel ashamed to not know who my child was and not try and learn a bit more about them. But what I'm also aware of in saying that is that we're all coming from different places, and I don't know what certain parents are going through. I don't know what struggles they've gone through. I don't know what hurt or pain or trauma they've gone through when they were children that they're bringing through now while they're parenting their children. And it's coming out in the way that they parent. But we have to be learning more about who our children are, and we have to be applying that to the way that we parent and the way that we interact with people, because we need to understand, even if we don't like it, or we have to understand and we have to know who our children are at the end of the day. Because I'm sorry, I don't want no one telling me about who my child is. I want to just know. I say to my daughter all the time, baby, if something happens, tell me, because I don't want surprises. I don't want the surprise. Just let me know before I get there what I'm going to be coming up. I don't want surprises. And we just have to ask those questions and listen to the answers, and then listen beyond what they tell us.
Absolutely. And I've told my boys, I want to know whether it's good or bad, happy or sad.
Yeah.
I want to know. Yeah. because then I can see what we can do and
Yeah.
how we can work out any solutions.
Yeah.
And also in the sense of, you've mentioned about that whole time getting to know and creating that profile, right?
Mm.
What we need to look at again and understand is that each one of our children are different. And
Mm.
sometimes we need to work with that difference. Do you know what I mean? Because,
Yeah.
you know what? You're going to get a better result from
Mm-hmm.
that. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
by using the same one size fits all, not being critical of our generation of parents who
Mm-hmm.
parented us through the 70s, 80s, and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
What we got to recognize is they did the best of what they knew.
Exactly.
And the same as us, we're doing the best with what we know.
Yeah.
But now it's about time, because it's so crazy out here. What we need to do is be some real conscious parenting and be
Mm.
fully conscious about what our actions, what the impact is of our actions, the words
Yeah.
what we say, how we role model, what they see us doing, and the
Yeah.
decisions that we're making. Do you know what I mean? And how we handle things like stress. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, very challenging time right now. Very challenging time.
I think that one thing that's really important that I want to put out there as well, to anyone listening to this or anyone who will listen to it after, because I think we are saving and we are recording this live so other people can watch it after, is that there is no one answer to how we look out for our children and how we raise our children. There is no perfect parent. There is no one person who can say, yeah, my children are amazing. My children are perfect. I know everything I need to know about my children. Parenting and being a guardian and being any kind of practitioner or pastoral leader is a process, it's a journey, it's a learning experience. And every single day we do the work, every single day we should be learning new lessons. And there are some people who call me sometimes and they genuinely believe I've got all the answers. They genuinely believe it. Like if I call Math, he will tell me how to get my child to do what they're supposed to do. And I give them tools to work with their children. But I always say, listen, sometimes it can take a week to turn them around. Sometimes it can take a month to turn them around. Sometimes it's a 6-month project. Sometimes it can be years. But what you have to understand is remain consistent with your children. And when I say remain consistent, I don't mean be stubborn. I mean remain consistent in approach in regards to love, care, you paying attention, you being an advocate for your child in regards to supporting them all the way. And you just have to be there. You have to be ever present for them in their lives. Because while I can give you, and there's been a couple of comments I'm going to address as well in regards to, presenting basic tools and that people can use and see what works with their children. While we can write the toolkits and we can suggest certain things, you have to use them. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't ask me for things that you want for your children, or ask other people for things. Schools, especially, because and childcare providers get dumped on terribly in regards to how people act towards their children. I say it all the time. The worst part of my work is dealing with poor parents and adults who don't mind their children properly, but have everything to say about the way that you mind their children in your environment in regards to being at school or college or extracurricular activities, primary school. Listen, sometimes parents are the difficulty, or the guardians, and the adults is not the kids. The kids were a blank canvas when they came into this world, and everything what they know, they learned from an adult somewhere along the way, or some child who learned it from another adult somewhere along the way. So just be very mindful about what you put out into the world in regards to your children, because when you feel like they're not paying attention, they are. When you feel like they're not listening, they're listening. When you feel like they're not looking at what you're doing, they're staring, and they are locking it all down, and they want to know, can I apply this to my life too? And then you're going to be the same parent who's going to turn around and go, where'd you get that from? We've got to pay attention. So we've got to pay attention, and like I said, we've got to learn as much as we can, because sometimes it's the smallest details that will save us and will save our kids It's the smallest details, because it's little things that you haven't clocked. And sometimes as adults, we can be so stubborn because we have a way of wanting to do certain things. And when children don't fall into what we want them to be and do what we want and be who we want them to be, we dash them and we label them. And we say that, you know what, this one's a bad one, that one's a bad one, or this one's perfect, this one's brilliant, adding pressure to that young person that they're not under enough pressure already. And it's because we're trying to put them in a box, and we can't do that. So we have to just remain consistent with our young people, be what we need to be. But like I said, don't cut corners, lay your foundation, and make sure that every single day, as small as it is, it could hardly be, your child got a new shoe size today, their foot grew, and now you have to go buy them new shoes and do certain things. Just pay attention to the small details, because they're the ones that will save your children, and they're the ones that will save your relationships when things aren't going too well.
Absolutely. So for me, you know, we spoke about one of the points being around understanding the role of the education system. Understanding the role of the education system and the role it plays in the lives of our children, and how can we better work with it to create the outcomes for our children going forward. So obviously it's been quite apparent that, but really the great work. In fact, there's certain people that during this lockdown, there's a lot of people that have been appreciated a lot more. So we've got shop workers, NHS care workers, teachers, they're all being appreciated like they've never been appreciated before. All of a sudden, everybody's named key worker now, right? Let me call it, they've been called important key workers and stuff. So looking at this now, right, you know, we're in this situation where we've you know, gonna go back to normality real soon, right? How can we better work with the work together with the education, and how can we look at how the role of the education system?
Okay, so first of all, my first request for all parents in regards to work with the education system: please don't be so judgmental about your children until you've done your due diligence and research into what's been offered to your children. Because teachers, like most other professions, do not get the credit they deserve in regards to what they have to do for your children and under the conditions that they work in regards to education. And that's just not you know, secondary school, primary school, you know, it's all down from nursery, primary school, secondary school, college, you know, because we are talking about predominantly younger people. Like, they work hard and they work under some serious conditions that sometimes aren't favorable, and it's very, very stressful. And what can make that even harder is when you work with difficult parents. And so, yes, I think someone just said, no, they don't. I would challenge teachers. I would challenge anyone who doesn't teach, be a teacher for a week. You do all the lesson plans, you mark all the books, you do all of that, and then we'll see how easy you believe teaching may be. I don't think it's a job for people who aren't dedicated. And yes, we do get a lot of teachers who aren't great and don't work as hard as they should do. But a lot of them do their graft. And it's not an easy job to have. It's why at the moment the government are struggling to get people to do the job, because nobody wants it after they realise how stressful it can be, and how much. Sorry, Miss Emdahl, I apologise. I think I misconstrued your point, but I get it. So work with your school first and foremost. Please, please, please don't go in all guns blazing on antics. Work with your school, because I think what a lot of you are learning now is that the job's hard. The job is difficult. Some of you were homeschooling your kids. I know, I've spoke to loads of parents were homeschooling your children for the first 3 or 4 days, and you felt good. You were like, yes, look what I've done. I've said this lesson plan, that lesson plan. Day 5 hit, or the second week hit, or the third week hit, and you're like, you know what? Boy, so I'm done. Let me see what I can find on BBC Bite Size, or let me see what I can find on YouTube, or it's hard. So work with your school, because I think some of you are finally realizing how much that school provides you in regards to your lifestyle and how you can live. Because you know what? if you had to be at home with your children every single day, we love our children, but let's be honest, they're a bit annoying sometimes, and they can be a bit much, and they bite into your private time, and they bite into your personal space and all of that. But work with your school, because they're the ones who are minding your children the majority of the week in regards to the time that they're awake. Do you understand? Yeah. So work with the school, work with your childcare providers, work with whatever provision your children have got. Don't be on their case all the time about things that realistically they don't need to be hearing about. You know, a big part of schooling is what you do with your children when they get home from school. That's a big part of schooling, you know, what you do with your children when they get home from school. So you get onto the school for what they don't do, but what are you doing when they get home? You know, what are you doing on the weekend? So work with your school, talk to them. If you're not happy, I'm all for taking school to task, because we shouldn't just settle for what we're given, because we know that in Birmingham, in a city especially, some of the school system, the school system is not brilliant, and some of the teaching isn't brilliant, and it's because of a lot of reasons: resources, lack of want, the stress, the pay, considering how much work you have to do, taken away from your family, so on and so forth. But there has to be so much work you have to do with your children, and work. So work with them, talk to them, build relationships with them. Some of the best outcomes I've ever had with a child is because me and their parents have a good relationship. To a point where it's like Christmas time. I mean, my birthday last year, not to brag, but I am. My birthday last year, I come out of school with so much cards and cake and chocolates and all this foolishness. And I bring it home and I'm like, oh, Em, look what I got from school. Look what I got from these kids. And it's emotional when the children bring it to you and they say, sir, thanks for everything. Happy birthday. I walked into assembly and the whole assembly hall sang me happy birthday. It's kind of embarrassing, but it's like, you know what? You know when you hear 250 children singing happy birthday and they're not your children. It's like, it's those things. And a lot of those children have those relationships with not only them, but with their parents. So talk to their parents, meet with their parents, even if you have to stay behind after school for extra half an hour or whatever. See if you can work it into your weekly schedule and sit down with their parents and have conversations with them. You know, it's just about building those relationships between the providers, childcare or education, and working with them. Because what a lot of parents have realized during this lockdown is, raw. My children are hard work. When they're good kids, they're saying, oh, my children are hard work. Keeping them entertained, keeping them happy, keeping them focused. It's hard work. And imagine there are teachers or providers doing this with your children from nursery time. You're looking at 7 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? School time, 8 o'clock till 4, 5 o'clock, depending on after school clubs. And they're doing it every single day. Every single day. There are teachers with 30-hour workload weeks in regards to teaching lessons. And I don't mean like they're in lesson every time. It could be marking. It could be covering a lesson. They're planning for next lesson. And they're doing it for your children. So parents, work with the schools.
Can I just ask with the schools?
Yeah.
I got 50 seconds are left of this live, yeah?
Yeah.
Who's gonna, are you free for coming back for another part 2?
Yeah, we'll do it. Yeah.
People, are you gonna come back for a part 2?
What we do is everyone, we're gonna click out and then we'll come back in. So give us a minute or two, we'll click out and we'll come back in and then we'll try and get this wrapped up the right way.
Yeah, lovely. See you in a bit.
Right, see you in a bit.